Hello, everyone. My name is Amir, and today I want to share with you my journey of becoming fluent in English. Before I learned to speak English confidently, my life was full of challenges that I didn't fully understand until I faced them head-on. I grew up in a small city where English was taught in school, but mostly through textbooks and grammar exercises. We memorized words, learned rules, and practiced writing. But speaking English felt almost impossible. Every time I tried, I felt nervous. My tongue seemed tied, and my sentences came out broken. I still remember my first real experience of struggling with English. I was in a group project at university, and one of our teammates came from another country. Everyone communicated easily in English, shared ideas, and discussed solutions. When it was my turn to speak, I froze. I wanted to contribute, but the words didn't come out correctly. I stammered, felt embarrassed, and then stayed quiet for the rest of the meeting. That moment stayed with me for a long time. I realized that even though I was talented and hard-working, my lack of English skills was holding me back. Opportunities were passing me by, and I didn't even notice it until I tried to reach for them. It wasn't only about school. When I searched for online internships or remote work, I noticed a pattern. Most opportunities required English communication skills. Even if I had the technical knowledge or the talent, companies wanted someone who could express ideas clearly in English. At first, I felt discouraged. Maybe I'm not cut out for this, I thought. But deep down, I knew that giving up wasn't an option. I realized that English was more than just a subject. It was a key to unlock opportunities in education, career, travel, and personal growth. Travel was another eye-opener. I had always dreamed of exploring other countries, experiencing different cultures, and meeting new people. But I quickly understood that without English, much of this dream would remain out of reach. Reading signs, asking for directions, or even making small conversations with locals was difficult. I saw other travelers interacting confidently, and I wished I could do the same. At that moment, I understood that English was not just a school requirement. It was a bridge to the world. The first step, I realized, was understanding why I needed English. Motivation is the foundation of any journey, and without a clear reason, it's easy to give up. I made a list of all the ways English could change my life: better job opportunities, the ability to travel and communicate, the confidence to participate in international projects, and the chance to learn from the wealth of knowledge available online. Every time I looked at that list, I felt a small spark of determination. Before fluency, my life felt limited. I missed chances to speak in public, connect with foreigners, and even enjoy global media. I knew that if I wanted to grow, I had to take control of my learning. English was no longer optional. It was essential. Realizing this need was the first breakthrough in my journey. It transformed fear into purpose and hesitation into determination. I want every learner to understand this. The first step to fluency is recognizing why English matters to you personally. Whether it's work, study, travel, or personal growth, knowing your motivation gives you direction. Once I understood this, I started to approach learning differently. Not as a school task, but as a life-changing journey. That moment of realization marked the true beginning of my path that lit the fire for the next steps, and it's the same spark that can light your journey today. After realizing how important English was, I was full of motivation. I was determined to change my life and finally speak confidently. But soon, I discovered that motivation alone was not enough. The road to fluency was full of challenges, and at times, it felt almost impossible. At first, every word I tried to speak seemed to get stuck in my throat. Simple sentences felt complicated. Even when I knew the vocabulary, I struggled to put words together. I remember trying to introduce myself in an online conversation, and my sentence came out all mixed up. I, from India, I am 21, I froze, and the other person politely waited. The embarrassment I felt made me want to disappear, and I questioned whether I could ever become fluent. Pronunciation was another major obstacle. I could read a word perfectly on paper, but when I tried to say it aloud, it sounded completely different. Words like thought, though, and through became nightmares. Even watching English movies or listening to podcasts, I understood only a few words. Sometimes I felt I was surrounded by a wall I could not climb. My confidence dropped, and I started doubting myself. Grammar was no easier. In school, I had memorized rules about tenses, articles, and prepositions, but real-life conversations did not follow the rules neatly. I would start a sentence correctly, but then lose track. Yesterday I went to the. I often stopped midway because I feared making mistakes. I realized that knowing grammar wasn't enough if I couldn't use it naturally in conversation. Another struggle was fear of speaking with real people. I avoided phone calls, group discussions, and any situation where I might speak English. My heart raced, my hands shook, and sometimes I couldn't even open my mouth. I saw friends who were more confident, and it frustrated me. I wondered, why can't I speak like them? This fear became one of the biggest barriers in my journey. I also faced practical obstacles. In my city, there were few English-speaking communities. Most people spoke the local language, so opportunities to practice were limited. I had access to books and videos, but practicing alone didn't feel enough. I realized that I needed interaction, real conversations, and feedback to improve. Learning English was not just about studying, it was about using it. Despite all these struggles, I kept reminding myself why I started. Every time I felt frustrated, I thought about the missed opportunities that English could unlock. Better jobs, international friendships, travel experiences, and confidence in global communication. I understood that every learner faces challenges, and struggling was part of the process, not a sign of failure. The biggest lesson I learned in this phase was patience. Fluency doesn't happen overnight. Mistakes are natural. Confusion is natural. Feeling frustrated is natural. What mattered was persistence. I began to shift my mindset. Instead of fearing mistakes, I started seeing them as lessons. Every mispronounced word, every awkward sentence, and every failed attempt was a step forward. Facing challenges was difficult, but it taught me resilience. It showed me that learning English is a journey with ups and downs, and every struggle brings you closer to success. The fear, the frustration, and the mistakes were not enemies. They were guides showing me where to improve. Once I accepted the struggle as part of the process, I began to see progress, slowly but surely. This stage taught me one critical truth. The struggle is real, but it is not permanent. Every fluent speaker has been where I was, nervous, unsure, and struggling. What separates fluent speakers from beginners is the choice to keep moving forward despite fear, mistakes, and obstacles. That choice is the foundation for the next stage of my journey, finding the right methods and tools to truly accelerate learning. After struggling for months, I realized that motivation and persistence alone were not enough. I needed the right methods and tools to guide me. Learning English is not just about hard work. It is about working smart. This realization became the turning point in my journey. At first, I relied on traditional methods, textbooks, grammar exercises, and vocabulary lists. These helped me understand rules, but they didn't teach me how to use English in real life. I could complete written exercises perfectly, but felt paralyzed when speaking. It was frustrating to know the words, but not be able to communicate. I realized I needed methods that focused on practical usage, not just memorization. Then I discovered online resources. YouTube channels, podcasts, and interactive websites became my daily companions. I started listening to simple podcasts in English every morning. At first, I could barely understand, but slowly, my ear adapted. Listening regularly helped me recognize pronunciation, sentence patterns, and natural expressions. Watching English videos with subtitles also helped me link written words to spoken language. I also explored apps and AI tutors. These tools were game changers. Unlike traditional classes, AI could provide instant feedback, correct my pronunciation, and adapt exercises to my level. For example, when I mispronounced a word, the app repeated it slowly, and I could practice until I got it right. I could have unlimited practice without feeling embarrassed in front of anyone. This gave me confidence to try speaking more often. Social media and online communities also became essential tools. I joined English learning groups, where learners from all over the world shared tips, conversations, and challenges. I started chatting in English with other learners, participating in discussions, and even writing small posts. This interaction gave me real-life practice and made learning feel alive, not like a boring task. I also experimented with learning techniques. For vocabulary, I used flashcards and sticky notes around my room. For speaking, I recorded myself and listened to my pronunciation. For writing, I kept a daily journal in English, starting with simple sentences like, "Today I ate rice," and gradually writing longer paragraphs. I discovered that combining listening, speaking, reading, and writing accelerated my progress. One of the most important lessons I learned in this stage was personalization. Not every method works for everyone. Some people may prefer podcasts, others prefer videos, some like AI tutors, and some learn better in social groups. I experimented, tried different approaches, and kept what worked best for me. Finding the right tools made learning less stressful and more enjoyable. Another breakthrough was realizing that fun matters. I started watching English movies I liked, reading stories that interested me, and even playing games in English. Suddenly, learning was not a chore. It became a hobby. When you enjoy the process, practice becomes easier, and your brain retains more. Discovering the right methods transformed my learning. I moved from frustration and confusion to clarity and progress. I was no longer blindly studying. I had a plan, tools, and strategies that worked for me. This stage taught me a powerful lesson. Learning English is not about hard work alone, but about choosing the right path and tools for your journey. By combining technology, real-life interaction, and enjoyable practices, I started to see real improvement. Sentences flowed more naturally, listening became easier, and speaking felt less intimidating. The struggle was still there, but now I had a roadmap to follow. With the right methods, learning English became a challenge I could enjoy instead of a problem I feared. Once I found the right methods and tools, the next challenge was to turn learning into a habit. Motivation alone can only take you so far. Without a consistent routine, progress is slow, and frustration can return. I realized that to become fluent, I had to make English a part of my daily life, not just an occasional activity. At first, I started small. I decided to dedicate 15 minutes every morning to listening. I played an English podcast while drinking tea or commuting. At first, I barely understood anything, but over time, my brain began to recognize words, phrases, and sentence structures. Listening every day trained my ears to the natural rhythm of English, and it became easier to follow conversations. Next, I focused on speaking daily. Even when I was alone, I spoke aloud. Simple sentences like, "I am brushing my teeth," or "I am drinking water," helped me think in English, rather than translating from my native language. I also recorded my voice and listened to my pronunciation. At first, I cringed at how awkward I sounded, but repetition made me better, and over time, I began speaking more confidently. Writing was another key habit. I started a daily journal, writing just a few sentences at first. Today, I went to the market. I bought apples. The weather was sunny. After a few weeks, I began adding longer sentences and describing feelings and experiences. Writing reinforced vocabulary, grammar, and sentence structure. It also gave me a safe space to practice without fear of judgment. I also incorporated reading into my daily routine. I started with simple stories and articles, highlighting new words and expressions. Gradually, I moved on to news, blogs, and novels. Reading exposed me to natural expressions, cultural references, and new vocabulary, which I could then use in speaking and writing. One important strategy I discovered was short, frequent practice over long, irregular sessions. It is better to practice English for 15 to 20 minutes every day than for 2 hours once a week. Daily repetition trains your brain, builds memory, and strengthens fluency. Consistency is far more important than intensity in the early stages. I also made learning fun and engaging. I listened to English songs, watched movies, played games, and even participated in online discussion groups. This helped me practice naturally and enjoy the process. I realized that when learning feels like a hobby instead of a chore, I was more motivated to continue every day. Habits also included real-life practice. I started using English in small ways with friends or in online communities. Even short interactions like asking, "How are you?" or responding to comments helped me connect learning with practical use. The more I applied English in real situations, the more confident and fluent I became. Daily practice was not always easy. Some days I felt tired or busy, but I reminded myself that even a small effort counts. 10 minutes of practice is better than none. Every sentence spoken, every word written, and every paragraph read adds up over time. Slowly, these small daily steps transformed my English. This stage taught me that fluency is built one habit at a time. Motivation ignites the spark, but consistent daily practice fuels the fire. With the right habits, English becomes a natural part of life, not a separate task. Over time, these habits compounded, and I began to notice a real difference. Speaking was smoother, understanding was faster, and my confidence was growing every day. Even with the right methods and daily practice, one obstacle continued to hold me back. Fear. Fear of speaking. Fear of making mistakes. And fear of being judged by others. I realized that learning English was not only about grammar or vocabulary, it was also about overcoming my own doubts and insecurities. In the beginning, I avoided speaking whenever possible. Even simple conversations with classmates or strangers in English felt intimidating. I worried that I would say something wrong, that people would laugh, or that I would look foolish. These fears made me hesitant, and sometimes I preferred to stay silent rather than risk making a mistake. The turning point came when I decided to face my fear directly. I joined online English-speaking groups where beginners could practice without judgment. At first, I spoke only a few words. Hello, my name is Amir, or I am from India. My sentences were simple and broken, but every time I spoke, I took a small step toward confidence. The supportive environment allowed me to experiment and make mistakes without embarrassment. I also started speaking with friends and family, even if they didn't speak English fluently. Simple conversations like, "What are you doing?" or "I like this food," helped me practice in a safe space. Gradually, I felt less nervous and more comfortable forming sentences. I realized that perfection was not required. Communication was what mattered most. Recording myself became another powerful tool. I would speak about my day or tell a short story in English, then listen carefully to my pronunciation and sentence structure. At first, I noticed countless mistakes and awkward pauses, but instead of getting discouraged, I focused on improvement, not perfection. Over time, I heard progress, and that boosted my confidence immensely. Another breakthrough was accepting mistakes as part of learning. Every mispronounced word, forgotten phrase, or grammatically incorrect sentence became a lesson. I learned to laugh at my errors, correct them, and keep speaking. I realized that every fluent English speaker had gone through the same process. They had just continued despite mistakes. Real-life practice was essential. I started using English in small but meaningful ways, ordering food at a cafe, asking for directions, participating in online chats, and joining webinars. Each time I communicated successfully, even imperfectly, my confidence grew. Gradually, speaking English became less scary and more natural. I also noticed a psychological change. Fear shrinks when you take action. The more I spoke, the more mistakes I made, and the more I learned, the less fear I felt. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the courage to continue even while afraid. Every small victory, like answering a question or making a new friend online, reinforced my self-belief. Finally, I realized that confidence and fluency grow together. Speaking confidently encourages more practice, which improves fluency. Fluency, in turn, builds more confidence. It is a cycle that strengthens itself. By facing fear consistently, I transformed nervous hesitation into bold communication. This stage taught me a powerful lesson. Courage matters more than perfection. You don't need flawless English to speak. You need the bravery to start, the persistence to continue, and the mindset to embrace mistakes as stepping stones. Overcoming fear was one of the most important steps on my path to fluency, and it is a step every learner must take to truly succeed. After months of consistent practice and overcoming my fear, the next stage in my journey was to use English in real-life situations. This is when learning truly transforms from theory into practical skill. I realized that English is not just for studying or apps. It is a tool for communicating, connecting, and exploring the world. At first, I started small. I spoke English in daily routines, even when I was alone. I described my actions. I am cooking rice. I am reading a book. Or, the weather is nice today. These small exercises helped me think in English instead of translating from my native language. Over time, speaking became more natural, and sentences started flowing without too much effort. Then, I took a bigger step. I started speaking with other people in real situations. I joined online English communities and discussion groups where people from different countries communicated in English. At first, I only typed messages, but gradually, I began speaking in voice calls and video chats. Each conversation was a learning experience. Sometimes I made mistakes. Sometimes I didn't understand completely, but I always learned something new. Traveling was another milestone. I had always dreamed of visiting new countries, and this time I used English as my primary tool. Ordering food, asking for directions, or chatting with locals became opportunities to practice and improve. At first, I was nervous, but every successful interaction built my confidence. I realized that real-life usage accelerates learning far faster than studying alone. I also applied English in professional settings. During an internship, I communicated with colleagues from different countries. Writing emails, attending online meetings, and presenting small ideas required me to use English actively. Mistakes still happened, but I learned to correct them and keep going. The more I used English, the more fluent and confident I became. Mistakes and misunderstandings were inevitable. Sometimes people didn't understand me, or I didn't understand them. But I learned an important lesson. Communication matters more than perfection. It's okay if sentences are not perfect, or pronunciation is slightly off. As long as the message is clear, communication succeeds. Accepting this mindset made real-world English less stressful and more enjoyable. Cultural exposure also played a key role. By interacting with people from different countries, I learned expressions, slang, and nuances that textbooks cannot teach. I discovered that English is not just a language, it's a bridge to understanding different perspectives, humor, and ways of thinking. This cultural insight enriched my language skills and made conversations more meaningful. I also found creative ways to practice. I wrote short stories in English, recorded videos, or even narrated daily experiences in English on social media. Sharing my thoughts publicly was intimidating at first, but the support and feedback encouraged me. Using English actively in life reinforced my skills, improved my vocabulary, and built fluency faster than any app or class could. Through real-life application, I learned that English is a living language. It grows and evolves as you use it. Books and apps are helpful, but nothing compares to speaking, listening, and interacting with real people. Each conversation is a new lesson, a new word, a new opportunity to improve. This stage was a turning point. I moved from being a hesitant learner to an active communicator. English became part of my life, not just a subject I studied. Real-world usage transformed my learning, strengthened my confidence, and prepared me for the final stage of my journey. Reflecting on my transformation and embracing fluency as a lifelong skill. After months and years of consistent practice, daily habits, facing fear, and using English in real-life situations, I finally reached a stage I had dreamed about for so long: fluency. But this transformation was not sudden. It was gradual, built step by step through dedication, persistence, and the courage to continue despite mistakes and challenges. Looking back, I realized how far I had come. I could join conversations with confidence, share ideas at work, write emails, understand podcasts, and even enjoy movies without subtitles. English had become a part of my life. I no longer translated in my head. I thought directly in English. This shift felt liberating. Communication became natural, and my confidence grew exponentially. Fluency also opened doors I had never imagined. I could connect with people from around the world, participate in international projects, and access resources and knowledge that were previously unavailable. I traveled to new countries, made friends, and learned about different cultures. English was no longer a language barrier. It was a bridge connecting me to the global community. But the most important transformation was internal. Learning English had changed my mindset. I became more patient, persistent, and courageous. I learned to embrace mistakes, face challenges, and celebrate small victories. These skills were not just useful for English. They applied to life itself. Overcoming fear, building habits, and using knowledge in real-life situations taught me resilience and self-confidence. I also realized that fluency is not the final destination. It is a starting point. Language is a lifelong journey. There is always something new to learn. New words, new expressions, and new ways to communicate. Even now, I continue to read, write, listen, and speak English every day. Each day is an opportunity to refine my skills, explore ideas, and expand my horizons. For anyone learning English, here is what I want to share. Fluency is achievable if you combine motivation with the right methods, daily practice, confidence, and real-life application. Mistakes are not failures. They are stepping stones. Fear is not a wall. It is a signal that you are growing. Consistency and persistence are more powerful than short bursts of study. I also want learners to understand that your journey is unique. Everyone progresses at their own pace, and comparison only slows growth. What matters is steady effort, learning from mistakes, and embracing the process with joy. Every sentence you speak, every word you read, and every conversation you have brings you closer to fluency. Finally, English fluency is more than a skill. It is a tool that transforms your life. It connects you with the world, provides opportunities for personal and professional growth, and gives you the confidence to pursue your dreams. My journey taught me that anyone can achieve fluency with patience, dedication, and courage. Today, I am proud to say that I am fluent in English, but I also know that the journey continues. Learning never stops, and every day brings a chance to improve, explore, and connect. Fluency is not the end. It is a doorway to endless possibilities. To all learners, start today, practice daily, face your fears, use English in real life, and enjoy the journey. Your transformation awaits. English is not just a language. It is a key to a world full of opportunities, growth, and connection.